Right, let's start, and then I'm sure like people will come in as we go. So yeah, to introduce this panel, obviously we're Girls Against. If you don't know of our work, we're a campaign fighting against sexual assault and misogyny in the live music scene. We create kind of like safe spaces, educational material, and just kind of like awareness about the issue. Um, and I'm one of the co-founders. I've been at Girls Against for, well, since it started, which was like 5.5 years ago now, which is pretty crazy. And Ellen, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Yes, I'm Ellen. I think I've been with Girls Against like 4 years now, I think. Um, I'm mainly on like social media and trying to create content and respond to people's messages and requests and things like that. But we all collaborate together as part of a team to create new projects and ideas and things. Yeah, so.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna kind of go around and everyone introduce themselves, what they do. Obviously, this panel is called The Future of Festivals, so we're mainly going to be speaking about kind of the progress of festivals, what needs to change, what needs, what's not there at the moment, especially as we're coming out of the pandemic, well, coming out of the pandemic and hopefully opening up and festivals are restarting again. So yeah, just everyone do a little introduction about your work with festivals and who you are. So we'll kind of go one by one. So maybe Cassie, do you want to start?
Oh, okay. Hello, my name is Cassie Fox. I run the Loud Women organisation. Loud Women is a group that's been going, coming up for 6 years now. We do lots of things. We have run a music website. We have a small label. We put out compilation albums, but we're also a promoter. We put on regular gigs and an annual. Well, in better times, we put on regular gigs and an annual festival. So this year, kind of fingers and toes crossed, will be our fifth iteration. So hoping that can happen in September.
Amazing. Camella, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone, I'm Camella. My pronouns are she, her. I've worked in the festival industry, I'd say for I think like the last 10 years, mainly running marketing for festivals such as Lovebox and Citadel. But I've also worked on a whole bunch of other festivals like the Great Escape, Wilderness, All Points East, British Summertime, yeah, just loads. I'm currently working at Red Bull, so I look after their festival and event partnership in the UK, and kind of any event production and experiential production too. So yes, that's me, and I'm here today with Nadine. We worked on a project together at I'll pass over to Nadine.
Hey, thanks, Camella. I'm Nadine. I use they, them pronouns, and my work focuses on creating intentional spaces for queer, trans, and non-binary people, Black and people of colour. And I I co-founded a party called Pxssy Palace, an arts platform called Lesbian Alley, and through Pxssy Palace we created the sanctuary with the help and support and drive from Camella at Lovebox Festival, and yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Estella, do you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Estella. I volunteer with Decolonise Fest, which was founded in 2016. Decolonise Fest is a punk festival by punks of colour for punks of colour. And yeah, usually we would also have an annual festival if there wasn't a global pandemic. And also play in the bands Big Joni and Charmpits. I have a lot of experience playing at festivals and attending as well.
Amazing, thank you. Shay, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. My artist name is Shay D. I'm a rapper. I have a show on Represent Radio as well, where I platform underground upcoming artists I am an education manager for Breaking Convention, so I run youth projects for young people that have been like isolated from school. And last year and the year before, well, last year's kind of doesn't exist really, does it? So like the 2 years before that, I basically did the first all-female hip-hop tour in the UK called the Queens of Art, where we basically toured the UK with, I think there was 22 women, like all together, like DJs, beatboxers, hosts, rappers, and then we ended up in Glastonbury and then in Belgium, which was really random. But yeah, so that's what I'm focusing on, trying to finish off this year. Like Estella said, like last year doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. So we've got like a really kind of great mix of panelists, and we wanted, I think, to do these panels because we're very aware that like as we're coming into more kind of like live events again, it's really important to talk about like how those need to change from what was happening before. So Ellen, do you want to talk about a bit more like why we've chosen this panel and what any research kind of that we've done around this?
Yeah, so I've been doing some research into some statistics that we could focus on, talk about. I kind of wanted to cover lots of bases, so not just like representation in festivals, but also like sexual harassment, sexual assault, that sort of thing. I tried to find something positive to start with. The only statistic I could really find was that the proportion of female acts from like 8 years ago was at 9%, and that's gone up to 24%. It's not amazing, but it's still a little bit of progress. I also found that larger festivals tend to have a lower proportion of female acts. It's sort of the independent sort of indie run festivals that kind of like put us up a bit, and it's still not amazing again. Data from 2017 and 2019 show that publicly funded festivals and festivals that have female artistic directors or females that are like running the show have a higher proportion of female acts. So I think we're trying to do it more than the men as well. The overall sort of statistic was that 25% of acts in comparison to 65% of men, and that's across all festivals. You know, depending on genre, doesn't matter. That's the same sort of statistic.
Is that worldwide?
Yeah.
Right.
I also found a horrible fact that outside the UK, a number of sexual assault and rape allegations were reported at Sweden's biggest music festival, which led them to cancelling it for 2 years. And their excuse was that they've cancelled it until men could learn how to behave, which I found really disgusting and awful. But the main thing, I've been trying to find as much data as possible, but in regards to reporting sexual assault, it's only official, like the police official, like public data, and that's only things that people have reported. But data does not provide like detailed information about location or anything like that, which means finding sort of data on sexual offences, specifically at music festivals, is really, really hard to come by. But we can relate to data that has been found. So about a third of women said they've experienced sexual harassment, and 8% of those women have experienced a sexual assault at a festival within the past year that they've been interviewed, compared to 1% of men. And then a YouGov poll, I think that's become quite popular recently, found that 22% of their sample size had some form of unwanted sexual behaviour at a festival, and this rose to 30% of people of the sample. And we, as women, make up 60% of the people that go to festivals in the first place. So we are the highest percentage of people, and it's what happens to us mostly. Also, a key fact is that festivals usually take place in temporary places, so they're not a venue that you'd go to all the time. So location can change, layout can change. You don't necessarily know where things are all the time. You don't know where like help and support is all the time. This changes year to year. So it's important that we focus on everyone from victims to bystanders to the staff at the festivals, the people that are volunteering. Like, these people change all the time. So it's important to look into community responses involving everyone to help reduce things that happen.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that's kind of why we want to have this conversation today. Obviously there's a lot that needs to change. So the first question, we're kind of going to just like go around, everyone can give an answer, and if you want to chip in on someone else's point, then either just chip in or you can use a little raise hand button. So we're going to be asking first what has been missing or lacking from kind of the organizations of festivals in the past. Obviously there are a few amazing festivals which some of you work with that are pushing the boundaries, but in general, what do we think is missing or lacking from festivals at the moment? So if anyone particularly wants to start.
I'll start. I feel like that this is something especially when I was running festivals, that was at the forefront of my mind every year. And I think that I'm the kind of person that just wanted to fix everything all the time. And then I grew to learn that actually it doesn't work that way, and that things take years and years to change. And the best thing that I felt was to actually just focus on something 1 year and then try and make that happen, and then let that grow, and then start other projects year on year. So yeah, I've got a big list of things that I've always wanted to try and improve and achieve, but it's like the three that I find that, you know, all of us will agree on. First of all, obviously the lack of gender balance in lineups, but also just generally lack of diversity in the overall offering. You know, it's I find that it's always been very much catered to kind of like a middle class white audience, and that, you know, stands like a big problem in the fact that, you know, you're not offering festivals that are for the wider public, which I think, you know, now that the festivals have such an importance in society, is something that really should be considered. The other point is output across sustainability. So a lot of festivals actually do have sustainable commitments and are constantly trying to reduce their carbon footprint, and it's something that's more and more becoming like a big topic from a kind of consumer perspective, but it's never really being I feel like it's never really been explained properly to the people on the site and the guests. And I feel like there should be more communication there, and then more of a chance for actually people to get involved in that, and then kind of partake in leaving kind of greener spaces even greener. And then another point that I think is where me and Nadine really kind of try to work on is experience. A lot of festivals are so busy, the teams are very small, and a lot of the time their main focus is to not lose hundreds of thousands of pounds, and they're not really thinking about what that consumer experience is like on site. They'll just like put a stage on, put some bars, and then just what happens. Whereas actually it's really important, from, you know, staff training to bar staff training to security training, you know, as you said, like information on site of where things are. Like there's a lot that could, you know, really alter the experience that you would have on a festival site, and I think that isn't really considered enough. And I think it's just so important for festivals to really kind of consider moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's really interesting actually about the kind of sustainability side of things. It's not obviously something that we deal with that much, but it is really important. Does anyone want to jump in on there?
No, it's cool.
Or we can just go around maybe.
Yeah,
Go, Nadine.
Just to jump off of what Camella said, yeah, like I think that a lot of festivals, I've been going to festivals since I was like 16, and there's a big emphasis on drinking, and even the music in between acts is like pumped, you know, it'll be EDM like almost regardless of like the type of festival that it is, the type of music, because that encourages you to drink more, you know. So it's like this real like focused on like having a lot more to drink, whereas like I think that if festivals focused on like harm reduction policies and with their drinking and drug problem, drug issues, so like that looks like a drug testing like on site, and it looks like having a lot of like chill, or like, well, you can't say that it's sober because there'll be places that are other people will be drinking, but places where it's like an area of the festival where it's like, hey, there's no alcohol like served here. So that's like the biggest thing to me, because as you're walking around the festival, it's just like, this seems like the focus is never the music, it seems the focus is getting wasted. So that's what I'm trying to like move away from. And I guess, like, you know, I always said, because like I didn't go to uni or anything like that, I didn't finish school, like the dance floor was my education, that was like my school. So, and I don't see why that should stop. So like festivals being such a large place, like using signage and using like to promote places that you can report sexual assault, that you can go to, like to remind people like how what the expectations are for the festival, how you should like behave, like, or make, you know, some things simple like drink water in between like your and then even having like a hydration like station sort of bit where it's just like water and like tea and like things like that. And then like just general like chill spaces, still the chill spaces are never, when they say that they're chill, they're never that chill unless the festival is a quite more relaxed one.
Yeah.
And just it's like making it like easier, because they're really high octane like events. And if I think about the amount of people that came to the sanctuary, they were just like, yeah, like I just came here because it was actually like a good deal on seeing all of my favorite music artists in one place. But you know, in between it's really, really intense, like, and you know, if you need to go, someone needs to go and like breastfeed, or just needs to sit down for a minute, like without being inundated by like a lot of overwhelming like high octane like things, like, so I think that's like really important, like that a lot of people. And then I guess like accessibility falls under that, so a strobe lighting and how people are interacting with the festival who have like different like access needs. And then really like making it easy to report, like if something happens to you at a festival, whether you're assaulted sexually or physically or in any sort of way, it doesn't never seems like that easy to report, like that 10 is like on the other side, and then it's really clinical and feels like really, you know, it's like, oh, this doesn't remind me of something that's good. You need to make the area that you have to report stuff, make people want to do that, because it's something that people don't do. They usually they go home and they want to continue having a good time at the festival, and then they'll process it later, you know. But if you make the channels like easier to report, then you'll get a much more clear, accurate representation of what's actually happening at the festival. I think that's it for me.
Yeah, definitely. It's like that ease of, festivals are not often easy for a lot of people, and I think it's kind of making that an environment that's comfortable and you can enjoy yourself in the way that everyone loves to do at festivals, but also, yeah, just having those parts being accessible and being easy to report, like what you're saying. Definitely. Estella, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I think it feels like with a lot of the larger, more mainstream festivals, that what they're offering for people who are attending feels really dated in comparison to where we are and what we really would expect today, and what I see smaller independent festivals managing. Things that have been mentioned, like having those chill out spaces, having a decent menu on offer for people who don't drink alcohol and don't just want to drink like water or orange juice in opposition to that. Yeah, it doesn't feel that welcoming to, unless you fit into a very particular narrow subset of society, usually being like a cis man. So yeah, it's strange to me that the festivals that have like huge budgets don't seem to be moving forward with the times in this way. And yeah, even in terms of like, you know, you mentioned the lineups not being particularly diverse, and it's like, oh, you have all this money and you can't like find some women to like play. It doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, it feels like there's a lot to be done to kind of open up those more like, I guess, those bigger festivals, those more mainstream spaces, and just to bring these conversations into those spaces and not have it feel like something that's a fringe idea to try and make as many people as comfortable at a festival as possible. in the myriad of ways that they might feel more comfortable. And yeah, things like accessibility and stuff as well, like it just feels so far behind. But, don't know.
Yeah, it's that we're kind of talking about this in our safe spaces panel this morning, just making these things like the norm, like not having it as a kind of you know, just, oh, this is a thing that's happening, like it should be happening, rather than like, you know. Ellen, did you want to say something?
Yeah, that was kind of my point. Like, I think we're oh, that's fine. I think we're all like saying how dated things are, and that people are definitely stuck in their ways because they think it works, and it may work for the masses, but then the masses turn out to be the men that it works for. So I think it's important that there's obviously going to be a shift in mindset, as there is now anyway, with more campaigns and stuff coming forward, but everyone's got to do it, and take, you know, I think they should take their opinions from the smaller festivals that are doing it well. They're doing it well in the first place. They haven't had to have a big budget or, you know, put lots of time and effort into it, because if you know that's what you want to do, then it's easy.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it can be easily achieved.
Shady, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I think Nadine made like really, really good points. A lot of actually covered like mostly, I think, everything that a festival should think about having. So almost like a checklist. So I think most of what Nadine said is like what I would think should be considered when you're creating such a huge space for so many human beings, like to be in one space. It's interesting as well, when Camella was saying about sustainability, like just a little bit, I guess off topic, but not, because it's obviously relevant to all of us. But I remember going to, I think it was Shambhala Festival for like the first time ever in my life. And I was actually like, I was so shocked, like I couldn't stop talking about like how clean it was, and that there was just like, there was no litter, like there was not even like a chewing gum wrapper anywhere, like it was so clean. It was like someone had hoovered the grass, like it was so clean. And every single area I went to, I was just a bit like, what, why is everyone so nice? Like, why is everyone so calm? Like, why is it so clean? Like, why is there water like stations everywhere? Like, it's so sad that it was so unusual to be so shocked that they like were like, they had recycling bits everywhere. There was people walking around, like really cheery people, like reminding you to like recycle and keep hydrated and stuff. Like it was great, and I hadn't really experienced it was one of like the nicest festivals like I'd gone to perform at. So that really stuck in my mind of how lovely it was as a attendee to do. So I think with anything that happens in the future, I think that's such a like amazing way to, it almost just energetically makes everybody collectively want to keep it like that. Whereas when everything's like grimy and everyone's drunk and there's just like things everywhere flinging stuff, everyone's licked out their heads, like it's just like no one, it's like all care goes out when you're that drunk, which kind of plays into what Nadine was saying, that if it's so focused on being intoxicated, all your consciousness of like being mindful is going to go out the window kind of thing. So that is like, I think super important, like to think about on a general level. And yeah, I remember I don't know like how it would work. I guess I'm just thinking out loud, but I do remember I had like a really horrible incident with a bouncer that worked at a festival where when we were trying to get out, and he was really physical with me, and I had like guys with me and stuff as well, and he didn't care. He was like wilding out. But when I was trying to look for safety or like someone to notify of what was going on, it really was a thing that within eyes reach of like near exits, or you know, like the corner of festivals where there's that kind of weird space like between like everything happening and like the outskirts or tents and stuff like that. There's that really weird space around where anything can happen, and within eye's reach there doesn't seem to be help or a spot. And I think that space in between really needs to be looked at in terms of having, I just even like prepping the people that work there like from before, so like that's their job as guards or looker afterers, or like I don't know like what kind of patrol like they would have. But I think that kind of scarce space in between the main festival and the outskirts is really important to look at. And also I was at a festival where there was a company called, I think they were called Safe Gigs for Women. They're like an organization, I think. And it was just so nice, like having them present. I felt really comfortable. And I wonder if there's some sort of like not like a union is the wrong word, but like some sort of union or something that has to kind of be present at any event or festival to kind of safeguard between the organizers and the guests, that there is something always there, like an outside body, not part of like the volunteers and stuff, to kind of keep them, just get to safeguard and keep them on check and risk assess. I think an organization like that, or like a body like that, would work really well, maybe.
Yeah, that's kind of an ideal situation, having that sort of presence at a festival, like as kind of like practice, you know. Yeah, definitely. Cassie, do you want to add on to that?
Everyone's made really good points. There's a lot more to say. I guess everyone's kind of touched on how independent festivals are just getting so much more right than these big festivals, and that is kind of reflected across the music industry as a whole, really. I mean, if you kind of look at who's running the big companies, the big labels, the big festivals, it's it's white cis men, mostly. So I guess the point is, if you change who's actually running the festival, it does change the whole look and feel of your lineup, of the atmosphere at the gig, and the care and attention to whether a festival chooses to work with an organisation like Safe Gigs for Women, which are brilliant. I think they have volunteers that kind of go along and and are just present and visible, and they kind of wear bright t-shirts so you can see them in a crowd, and you've got a kind of a friendly face to go and report something, or just be with someone. And this is something that's kind of independent festivals like Loud Women and Decolonise Fest are kind of doing naturally as part of their organisation. We have teams of stewards who are there. I mean, and we're a really small organisation. I'm constantly being contacted by people offering to come and volunteer, and stewards and students wanting to get into music, really keen to do this stuff. So if I'm getting all these offers of volunteers, I'm sure the big festivals are getting these offers as well. So it's not a matter of people not being available to do this work. But yeah, we'll make sure that we have kind of high-vis up stewards around who can just be present, be visible, and make sure that everyone's having a nice time, which is the point, really.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice having the kind of visibility and like the comfort as well of having organizations, or even just stewards that are not, as you say, cis white men. So yeah, it's really important. Ellen, did you want to introduce the next question?
I think we've all kind of covered the next question, just in discussion.
Yeah.
But maybe we could single something out. So the next question was, what can and should festivals be doing to change as we approach festival season this summer? So maybe everyone goes around, just says one thing that we could focus on.
I think like a focus, coming out of like especially this year. I think what's kind of important coming out of post COVID, if we can say that.
I mean, but I just don't understand what that looks like, right? It's like, I know that Leeds and Reading are running this year, and what does a festival look like while we're still in a pandemic? The idea of a whole bunch of people in one place like strikes the fear of God into my heart. Like I don't have no idea what that looks like and how that is safeguarded, just never mind from all of the other things that we've talked about, but just from a COVID point of view. Like, how do you separate that? How does that, when you mix a large people in a lot of spaces, plus the drinking culture, like it just seems like a breeding ground. I don't get it.
Yeah, I was talking to my US counterpart yesterday, and he went last week to Texas because there was a festival happening there, and kind of like lots of different people across America went to this festival because it was kind of like the first festival happening. And yeah, he said that there was like nothing was put in place. It was just as if everything was back to normal, which is quite wild and bold. So it does, and I'm obviously talking to festival operators every day, and I'm not really getting any answers. I don't know what, there's a lot of like hearsay. There's obviously lots of chat internally within their teams, but doesn't look like there's anything really being put in place, which does worry me too, because it just feels so unrealistic that in 3 months time that we'll suddenly be submerged in hundreds of thousands of people. It just, it, like you said, Nadine, it's just wild. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's amazing as well that it's kind of like had like, again in the panel earlier we were saying it's kind of been almost like a good opportunity for organizations, like festival organizations, to sit down and look at like how they can do that. So to kind of like now just open things up and throw everything kind of into the deep end without thinking about how they're going to open up properly is, yeah, like as you say.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they're so desperate to make money because they lost so much money last year that right now they're just focusing on like the bare bones, like let's get the bare bones ready, and then if it's actually going to happen, then let's get into like the planning. Because even in terms of what I do with the festivals, we've kind of got the bare minimum agreed on, but then we haven't really like done the details, and maybe it's just that they're waiting. But I think something that I've been discussing like off this chat with like Nadine and Girls Against is just generally my worry about like this return to trade, this return to kind of normality, and the like really toxic drinking culture that we have in the UK. And I'm just really conscious that there's just going to be a lot of like minority groups that are at risk of kind of the repercussions of really like drunk young men that just everyone's been locked inside for a year. So everyone on one side, there's this whole chat about it's going to be the roaring 20s and we've got like this amazing kind of decade coming, and which is all really, really exciting. But I think also there's this whole other side of, well, what impact will that have on all these people? And that's the bit that I feel like nobody's really looking at, and I feel like we're just going to wait for it to happen and then deal with the consequences after, which is horrible.
Yeah,
I think there was I don't know if did you see the pilot that they did? It was on the news, and they did a pilot, I think it was in Holland or somewhere, where they had basically run a festival. They had tested everyone before, then they all kind of went in, they were all drinking. I think there was like 2,000 people max. And then like the presenter was there kind of like from the beginning of the day and then like toward the night. And at the beginning, everyone was wearing their masks, like everyone was supposed to wear masks, everyone was wearing their masks, and they were like, oh, it feels like really good to be out, and da, da, da. And then basically like while it had got dark and the music had changed and stuff, like masks were on the floor, people were hugging each other, and they were like kissing strangers. They were like, it just feels so good to be out. And I was like, oh my God, yeah. And then I think the plan was to test everybody when they left, and then to test everyone like a week later and see what had happened. But just seeing that, I was like, that is like so realistic. That's literally what's going to happen. Everyone's going to fling everything off, not there, unless it's a sober festival. I don't know.
Yeah, it's quite unbelievable. I guess we've got to think about things that like kind of, I guess, can be put in place, because if festivals are going to happen, then it's good to kind of have people like us pushing like the right agenda kind of thing. Does anyone else have anything to add from that?
think just the other point that Cassie was saying, sorry, so I'll be quick, but Cassie said it really well, is just the fact that a lot of the big festivals, well, actually, like any big festival I've worked with has always had like a white middle-aged man at the top, and it shows. So I think that you know, that's not going to change overnight, but what can change overnight is the people that you bring in at the bottom, whether that is like the interns, the volunteers, the freelancers. And I think that there's just like a huge, really easy job there that like, everyone could do in festivals and events, of just bringing in a more diverse team, so that will then instigate the change. I think that, I mean, nothing really groundbreaking, but one of the main reasons we managed to get so many women on Lovebox lineups, because my team was basically just women, even if there was a man at the top. And I think that constant pressure every year of us pushing and pushing and pushing meant that we kind of ended up getting those results. That's just one thing that needs to change within like the diversity of festivals, but I just think that there's, yeah, that would be really exciting to see this year, and I'm hoping that more festivals are going to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, they've had a really great opportunity, haven't they, in the last year to kind of sit and think and plan and improve things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, if you kind of have a look at the lineups that have been posted recently, maybe not so much thinking has been happening.
Yeah, literally.
The same as has been happening for the last 10 years. It's ridiculous. I mean, every year there's that image, isn't there, that kind of goes around social media of like a festival lineup with all the males' names, all the male bands taken off, and it's like every year that's posted, and everyone's outraged, and then it's the same thing the next year.
We did a tweet about that.
I don't understand. Like, I honestly, you know, when you just think of like when you're someone who like makes lineups and organizes stuff, you have these kind of video meetings and stuff. Someone must have sat at Wireless, and said, oh, you lot, remember the backlash we got last year? Yeah, like we should try not for that to happen, innit? Like, so should we have a look at the lineup again? And then someone go, oh, you know what, you're right, we shouldn't have 44 guys and 5 girls. That's a bit F, isn't it? And then someone would go, okay, let's do something, and then plug it. Like, what happened in that? Like, I would just love to have been at a meeting that someone, like, how could you do it again? Like, it's mad. Like, it's wild. Like,
Estella, did you want to say something?
Yeah, kind of similar to what's been said, really. But yeah, it feels so unambitious to simply return to how things were pre-pandemic, when you've had all this time to think about how you could do things differently. And like, I'm a little bit biased because I'm on the board of the Good Night Out campaign, who work in like training people to, you know, try and promote safer nightlife, and that also includes like at venues and festivals as well. And like, it's not hard to organize like training for a team of like your stewards at a festival and stuff, to like be able to like even like know what to do in terms of like intervention if they see something happening, or if somebody comes to report something that's happened to them, and to know how to deal with it and how to handle that situation. Like, that's quite a small thing to implement that can have such a big effect on your festival and how it runs, and how the people who attend feel. And I think things like that should be happening, and I don't see why they maybe aren't happening at some of the big festivals. And like, stop like booking like Foo Fighters and Oasis and stuff. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, literally. It gets to a point where you feel like it's not even, they're trying now to put like new male names. You're like, okay, well, they're like recycling old headliners, and it's like, that's just ridiculous. Does anyone have anything else to add on this before we move on to the next question? Okay, so kind of obviously want to talk a bit about some positives, because everyone here on this panel has contributed to kind of, you know, positive festival life. So we're kind of asking, like, what has already been done. So whether that's kind of talking about your own work, but what is there that other festivals can like follow suit with. It's kind of just talking about what can be done, like maybe talking about the work at the sanctuary as well, and like how that was a positive force, basically. So yeah, maybe do you guys want to start? Mella and Nadine.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Nadine did everything. I did nothing. Like I was just like a point of communication. But as we just to kind of like set it up, essentially, I've been at Lovebox for quite a few years, and there had been, as with every festival, you know, sexual assault, not just allegations, but you know, issues that had happened on site, and it was just something that we kind of realised we had a welfare tent, like every festival has, but it's so dated. And when I started actually picking it apart, I was like, well, what is this welfare tent? It had a value, and it still definitely should be there. It just felt so traditional, and it wasn't really thinking of like the wider word what is welfare. And then that's how we just ended up speaking to Pxssy and Nadine, and they had this amazing idea of kind of creating like a safe space. And yeah, we managed to make it happen, which should be like a given, but actually for us it was like groundbreaking. And even I remember the time the CEO of Live Nation in America was like really like happy about it and like retweeting it, and so it did feel at the time that it was like, right, okay, like this is the start of something really big, and we could like do this across like all festivals. And that's still a dream, definitely, but with everything with the pandemic has kind of stopped it. But yeah, Nadine will go into detail of that.
Yeah, so it was something that we had planned to implement at Pxssy Palace, because Pxssy Palace, the party, is a very intense, high octane kind of event, and I was like, well, now moving forward, we wanted to have a second room that would have just food and art and like a chill, like relaxed space, like, and I wanted that to go alongside the party every time we did it. And then it birthed the sanctuary, which before we were able to do it at Pxssy Palace, we did it at a Lovebox. So what that looked like was just like, it was a space for women, trans and non-binary people only, and it was very cute, you know, lots of soft furnishing, free teas, free waters, its own bathroom. There was loads of there was a self-defense classes, there was like a self intention like workshops that you could do. There was like a community library which we collected like loads and loads of zines from like people that we knew, so that people could just sit and read. There was like colouring books. There was like a back area bit for people to do like there was like a meditation, like a mindful class, so people could do that there. There was free spike drink detector kits, free sexual health condoms, lube, dental dams. There was what else do we have? So I had it on something, and then yeah, if people wanted to like report as well, like so that we could get in contact with people there. So if something happened and people were near us, we were near the main stage the first time, so people could come and do that. And yeah, like we just got like mirrors, like to do your hair, makeup, refresh, like loads of signage, you know, about what we do and other people that we look up to, like what they do, and just like, I mean, it was amazing. Like there's people that had been going to festivals for years and was like, I never felt comfortable like breastfeeding at a festival. Like loads of like kids who were maybe like coming into like their queerness, like, you know, with their parents and stuff, and like wanted to like learn more. And just like, and I was really surprised that even though there was so much music and loudness going on, especially when we did it year one, we were next to the main stage, people were still reading. So many people were reading and coloring, and just like, I was like, wow, like, and that's what they needed. They just like, and one person who completely came on their own, young queer black woman, and she said that like, I just came, I'd never been to a festival before, all my favorite people were on the lineup, so I just bought a ticket and came, but I didn't know it was going to be like this is so intense, so I'll just stay here and chill before I go and see the people that I like. And it's like, why can't festivals just be like that, to have an area where you can just go instead of just all of this intensity, you know? And it's just really overwhelming and overstimulating. So yeah, that was the kind of vibe of it, and the eventual thing that we were looking to. And then we managed to implement the sanctuary at every single Pxssy Palace that we do. So always going to be 2 rooms, a chill room and the more like music intense like room. And eventually for it to be, because a lot of people like used to say that it was like divisive, but I think people need to understand that it is already divisive. Like when you put into these situations, there is already a divide. So if you create a sanctuary, or you create for people that are the most vulnerable in these spaces, then you're going to get people that are more relaxed. You're going to get more education. People are going to be able to feel more empowered with themselves. And then, yeah, hopefully that can something that can be bigger and then more widespread. I think that would be really great, you know? So I'm sort of like on the vibe as like every venue should have some form of sanctuary.
Oh yeah, that would be amazing. The kind of having that just everywhere, like as you say, like it would just make everyone feel more comfortable. Yeah, it's such an amazing initiative. Cassie, do you want to add anything about kind of your work with Loud Women Fest?
Yeah, no, I was just blown away by hearing about the sanctuary. Actually, I want a sanctuary in my house.
Yeah.
I live with even the cat's male here. Everyone's allowed in my house. Anyway, yeah, Loud Women. Well, I mean, obviously we kind of have that, you know, kind of safe space almost built into our infrastructure, our team working behind the scenes and choosing the lineups and putting together the festival are diverse. We're mostly women and gender non-conforming people, and we include people of colour, and kind of make sure that diversity is kind of built into our team. That's kind of you know, shaping how our festival looks and feels. And yeah, we have a group of volunteers who have been volunteering at most of our festivals, so they have a kind of a community ethos built into their events. They know how our events go. They know, you know, when things have gone wrong. You know, when there have been, you know, our events are certainly not perfect. You know, things do happen. You always get idiots turn up, don't you? So they've learned from those experiences. They know what the risks are and how we've dealt with that in the past. So they know what to look out for. And I think that's really important, kind of having that, what's the word? You know, having the same team each year who kind of really buy into the ethos of your event and kind of know what to look out for. And how to react when something happens, when, you know, someone's trying to get into the green room or who shouldn't be, or, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, that's what we do anyway. It's you know, it's not perfect, but we try and kind of learn from it each year as well, and kind of you know, think what we weren't comfortable with each event and try and make it better next time, which yeah, as we've all said, kind of certainly something that the bigger festivals could do with looking at
Take a lesson from that, yeah, for sure. Yeah, thank you. Estella, do you want to talk about Decolonise Fest?
Yeah, so yeah, as I mentioned earlier, like Decolonise Fest has started to be a festival by punks of colour, for punks of colour. So what we kind of mean is the entire organising crew. There's about 10 of us who work on the festival and our events year round, are all people of colour. Every act on the bill will have a person of colour present, if it's a band, for example. But obviously the audience, we're open to everybody to attend. But the point of the festival is, you know, I think we're all quite sick of, you know, hearing the excuses about why people of colour are left out of lineups. And it's like, oh, we just couldn't find any, or like they get pigeonholed into certain areas of music. Whereas like we say we're a POC punk festival, but we actually show quite a lot of different genres, quite a lot of experimental stuff, like doom, alternative, also like some poppier stuff and electronic stuff as well. But the point is to show that there's people of colour making all kinds of music. It's not difficult to find them. We can always fill a weekend with at least 16 acts minimum. who are all POC, so there's no reason not to have them in your festivals. And we always have amazing headline acts as well. There's POC out there who are definitely worthy of filling those bills. We've had Nova Twins, and like, look how massive they are now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of the point. And I think similar to what Cassie said earlier as well, like it does make a difference when you have when you change who's in charge of the festival. And you know, we've been able to curate something that we all knew that we would have wanted when we were younger and going to festivals, and how we would have wanted it to feel. And we'd been quite lucky as well, because in the past we've always hosted the festival at DIY Space for London, which was a volunteer run space in South London, who were already thinking about things that we've discussed on this panel, like making sure there's a safer spaces agreement in the venue, that there was always a chill out space in the venue, worked with us a lot before the event to you know, really understand what we were trying to do, and then make sure that like everybody who would be volunteering at or working at that event was on the same level and like knew how to treat people. And one thing I really liked about DIY Space as well is that anybody could kind of like go for the security training there. So like you would have security staff who looked like the people who were attending and could identify with the people who are attending and stuff, which I think makes a big difference. And yeah, like DIY Space is always thinking about accessibility and having all gender toilets and making sure that the stage was accessible for, you know, if we had any artists who were in a wheelchair, for example, things like that. They would think of everything in that way. And it makes such a difference if you can hold a festival in a space that's already like planning for these things in advance and wants to make sure that it's a welcoming space. And we've always found that like the audience who comes are always such a great mixed, diverse audience who always have like a really good time, and people feel comfortable to come on their own and to make friends there and stuff. And like it's not difficult to create these conditions. So yeah, that's what Decolonise Fest is about.
Amazing. It's kind of just like getting everyone involved and like everyone enjoying it and stuff. Nadine, sorry, were you gonna say something?
No, I was just like, yeah, just like you were saying. Like,
yeah. Shay, do you want to add on to that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't run a festival yet. I haven't yet. But like, I'm so literally like, I'm so inspired and blown away like from what everyone's done. Like, I went to Lovebox not last year. Oh, last year doesn't exist. I went like the year before. I had like a really good time. The sanctuary idea, like for me, I feel like I would spend all the festival there, to be honest. Like apart from like when there's a couple things on, that sounds like a dream and something that really, I mean, I'm glad like Cassie and Estella were saying like it's kind of part of their infrastructure kind of thing as well. So I think that's so amazing. And if I ever ran a festival, I would make sure that like it has something like that, or get someone, one of you guys or all of you to come and do do that as well. Everyone paid their money. Like, yeah, like that's really amazing. And I'm really, I work with, like I said, I run youth projects, so I have a lot of young women, young people, like boys and girls, like everyone, to be honest, like really talking about this stuff and being intimidated of going to these things. So many times, like when we go on trips, like me and the other artist mentors, like we go with them and we take them places for the first time because we didn't have something like that ourselves, and we try and guide them and make sure they're okay and make sure they're safe so that they can then practice kind of doing it on their own. But having these kind of spaces is really important. For me, when I ran the tour, it was a little bit different because it wasn't a festival, but it was like 8 venues. So it was like making sure that the women that were on the lineup felt safe. Obviously, I did find it was kind of crazy, like all of the events, it was like hip hop, like rap, grime, drill, like hip hop umbrella. But most of like the audience, like everyone that was coming were not guys. And the guys who did come, the men who did come, it's almost like because they knew it was an all-female tour and it was so empowering for the women, it's like when they came in, it's like they took some like submissive energy, like they suddenly it's so weird, it's like their energy shifted like when they came in, and it was really nice. And normally when I perform, when I'm doing a set, I get all the girls to come to the front of the stage, and then I got a tune called Suffragettes, and it's not like a man-hating tune, but it's very like female power, girl power song. And I get the girls to come on stage with me, and we like finish the set with all the girls on stage, and we kind of while out. And it was a bit mad because normally I'm like, oh, the girls come forward and girls come up on stage, but it literally would have meant the whole venue is like on the stage with me. And there was like, I remember, I think we were in Folkestone, and there was like, I think there was about 4 or 5 men left kind of at the front, and all the girls were like, we were all together. It was crazy. So I did find that like us as the organizers, I mean, my manager is a guy, but he's just given up with her. He's just like proper like girl power vibe. But everyone who was kind of in charge and running stuff and the lineup, like all having that energy, it just made the people that were coming and the audience and everything, it's like they just respected and knew what it was about. And I think that's like the way I've been able to implement it, like as a tour and as separate venues, rather than like a massive festival that I haven't done. So yeah, I guess that's what I can input.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you guys so much. Ellen, I don't know if you wanted to say any last words. We've kind of run out of time. This conversation could go on for hours, which is sad, but yeah, Ellen.
Yeah, I think we've covered so many interesting points, and I think hopefully people can watch this and take something from it. I think the main message is that everyone wants to go to Lovebox now. Everyone wants to go to because it sounds amazing. It sounds so good. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. This it has been recorded, so you know we can share it after and people can watch it back, which is really good. So I'll get that sent to everyone at some point in some way. But thank you everyone so much. It's been such a great conversation. Nice to kind of meet you all kind of. And yeah, the potential for festivals is positive with people like everyone here doing the work that everyone does. So yeah, thank you everyone.
Lovely to meet everyone.
Lovely to meet everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, great chats.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.